The time has come where Chapter 1 has begun. So, Chapter 1, I'm going to stick with the printed version from when I read the book. It is titled Anomaly, How to Finally Stand Out from the Crowd. That's the group we're in, Anomaly Nation, and I'm going over chapter by chapter, at least to start kind of what I was thinking when I did it. If you guys have questions throughout, you know what to do. Say hello. That's all you got to do. And ask the questions that you may have. If you're watching it live, you can ask questions live. If you're asking questions later, you can ask questions later. Whatever. Okay, chapter 1. So you remember we just started the introduction. And now it's time for chapter 1, because that's what goes after chapter 1. It's called Why What You're Doing Isn't Working. And so I should preface this by saying I think a tremendous amount of people literally will see what one person does and they will copy that strategy without giving it even their own flair. And I think I understand why they're doing it, because they're like, oh, if it caught me by surprise, maybe I should do that too. The problem is what happens is people all start to do that and it becomes camouflage. It starts to blend in, and then none of it actually happens because they're literally copying the exact same thing. So if you're watching TV and a commercial is there and it's silent for a little bit, that's that ad agency or business trying to get you to look up from the other things that you're doing, because you probably don't want to see that commercial, or you probably are doing something else. And so they're thinking that you're in your 2, 3, 4, 5 screen experience, and they have to do something to get you to basically to be jarred, to see something. So it could be like an accident, it could be silence, it could be way back when, before this changed, it would be really loud music or really loud sound down to really low. They're trying to get your attention. And so if you do literally the exact same thing as someone else without adding your own flair, guess what happens? You blend in. So I have this theory that, so there's Chick-fil-A. Obviously you say thank you. They say my pleasure. And I have this concept that on a way to kind of grasp that concept yourself. So you want to create something, create a campaign, and dominate the absolute crap out of that. Make it absolutely amazing. Then you want people to like talk about that and be to be like this crazy, amazing thing. Then you want that thing to be copied, basically. Then you retire it, and then you rinse and repeat. So if you've been to a fast food restaurant in the last year, you realize that many of them, not just Chick-fil-A, when you say thank you, are now saying my pleasure. And so that is starting to blend in. So if I was Chick-fil-A, I wouldn't stop being amazing. I would continue to be amazing. But I might change my pleasure to something else just to stay fresh and let everyone else start to look like the donkeys. So, chapter 1 starts with everyone in the world was born to be something that society pushes all to play by a specific set of rules. I believe that if you look at the majority, the overwhelming majority of most successful people in the world, they don't follow the rules. They do their own thing, and they create champions around them. Basically, I mean, that's the way I live my life. And it's like, hey, it's like following the rules is fine, but if you want more, you probably have to create your own set of boundaries. You have to create your own set of rules. And those are things that I do. And so be thinking about that. If that is uncomfortable for you, find minor ways for you to do something slightly a little bit different. I say being an anomaly is about doing something different than others. It can be in a physical way, like the way that I dress, jeans, black t-shirt, or it could be the way that Chick-fil-A does stuff, right? Like where they're just like my pleasure, right? Everyone, you go to Chick-fil-A, you go to McDonald's, one's positive experience, one's negative experience. It's not a dig on McDonald's. It's how the majority of people feel when they go to those two places, right? They basically sell the exact same thing: fries, a sandwich, and a drink. So what do you expect to happen? Like, one of them does way better than others. And then, not to get all self-helpy, but it's like, you have to start somewhere. Stop. This is a really good point. I should have bolded this, actually. Stop waiting for that perfect timing because you'll be waiting for the rest of your life. You have to start somewhere, so don't let the lack of confidence be your reason for not starting. I think so many people are like, I don't know when I'm going to do this. And so the example that I like to give now, I didn't use this in the book, about why you should start now, is thinking about you going out for an interview for a new job. You probably do this interview 10 to 15 times in your life. The average person is changing their career every 40 months, and you're basically working from 20 to 60. So that, I think, is where the average is, if my math is remembered for when I've told this story before. And so you go out for that interview, which you do a dozen-ish times in your life. You're not going to be amazing at that, right? So but the more you do that, the more frequent you do it, the better you get. Go back and look at some of my oldest videos that I've ever done. I was terrible in the back. Now I'm slightly less terrible, right? Look at some of the first pieces of content that I wrote. I'm far better now than I used to be. Like, that is called repetition. And so as you do things more, that repetition, that frequency makes you stronger because you learn from it. And so that's why it's so important to just start, because you know you're going to suck. And that's okay. Embrace that. Get better. I'm trained to do this Ironman race. It happens to be this weekend. Like, I was thinking today, like, I remember when I could swim a couple of laps, ride a little bit on the bike, run a little bit. Now I'm going to run a little over a mile, 56 miles on a bike, and run a half marathon, all back to back to back. If you would have told me that 500 plus days ago, I never could have done that. And so that's why starting is so important. You learn a lot from just starting, right? Nike, the greatest motto, slogan of all time, just do it. Ironically, I was talking to Shade about McDonald's, and I had to take my car in to get something fixed the other day, and there was a McDonald's right there, so I went to the Mac Shack. I kept the cup. It's not the same coffee. Okay, so I believe that even if you don't own a business, you should think about things in like business principles, business perspectives, how it's a series of different steps to get the result that you want. And so you should be tracking conversions. So conversions are the successful events where your target customer completes the action you're trying to get them to complete. So that could be trying to get a guy or girl to go on a date with you. That could get that person to sign up for your email list, to like a post that you do, to view a post, to open an email, to actually give you cash, any of those things. And the target customer, a lot of the first part is really defining some of the stuff that we're going to go into as well. Target customer is the person or group of people that you have identified to have a series of similar trends and are interested in the products or services you have provided. So what's interesting is, I think a lot of people think about standard demographics. I think that's great. It's great that it's like a white male, 35 years old, that went to West Virginia University, that has a beard. That's me. But honestly, out of that, that's really kind of standard demographics, really kind of standard information. I think there's far bigger things in there. So it's like, all of those things are great, but like, watches wrestling, has a Netflix account, watches this type of movies, is training for Ironman races, those type of things, has a business, right? Has a podcast, listens to this type of content. I think knowing that information about those people is far more valuable than just being like, I'm a white 35-year-old male. And so digging deeper into that, I think, is powerful. I think we go into that deeper as well. Then most people are trying to sell the first time they meet you. The reason I think that is a difficult scenario to do is think about the last time you actually bought from someone the first time you met them. It's unlikely, yet that's a strategy that a lot of people employ on people. I think that's a bad one. Unless someone's calling you saying, hey, I want to buy your thing, you should probably think about creating a relationship first with them if you want better results. That's how I live my life. I get amazing results because I do that. People still want to push back on me for it. It's like, hey, like, I don't know why you're pushing back. You don't want to do it yourself. Like, think about the scenarios you go through, right? If you don't buy from someone the first time, why would you employ that method on someone else that you want to be your customer? Create a relationship with them, make them your friends, and then when the time is right and you spend a little bit of time with them, they'll probably spend way more money with you. And many of the people who have bought this book also have bought other things from me that are far more than $18 a pop. And and they're like, yeah, he invested in us, showed us how he could help us so much more, and then bought more from me. Or I bought more from him. Not rocket science, people. So I say start with, a lot of this stuff can be super bolded. Start with the desire to create a lasting friendship. People often won't support or buy from people they don't know, but they love to support people they like, trust, and have a relationship with. If you can take that deeper and have a true friendship with them, I believe you improve your chances of conversion. What's worse is being sold when you don't want to. I think we're all selling, and I think it should be sales. Sales should be win-win everywhere. This is bolded. Value is providing something useful to someone. Yet people question, what kind of value should I provide? Well, if you're a comedian, do something funny. If someone doesn't laugh, they're probably not going to like it. If you're an accountant, that's the example I'm giving right here, probably help them with their accounting issues. Maybe it could be like, hey, there's this new rule. I wanted to let you know about this new rule. And that could be a way to talk to someone about it. Or there's this new law in effect, right? That happens all the time. And if there's try doing things that most people aren't necessarily doing. So if you go to a very specific event, they're probably going to do it a standard way. Try to figure out how to put your spin on that. And so if there's a way, an organization, like a Rotary organization, that never does anything outside of those four walls, maybe they do a Facebook Live and show people, hey, like, this is what we're doing, to introduce people into the speakers, to get them excited about that thing. They like what they see, and then they're like, I want more, I want more, I want more. That's how you can spice things up. To me, the concept of marketing is simple. Marketing is doing anything to get someone's attention or get them to look at your business. If they never see you, they'll never see your message, product, or service. You have to think about that. Like, this is chapter 1 of the book. Like, that is the book 101. If no one sees you, you cannot grow. It's as simple as that. And so you have to do things that get people recognized, right? And so I use this example. Think about when you're scrolling through your newsfeed or social media. What do you stop for? Cute puppies and kittens, fainting goats. Yeah, ads, probably not. Unless they're clever and funny. And so you have to think about those things. So when I roll into an event, jeans and a black t-shirt, people are like, oh, who is this donkey? How is he like, he looks like no one else there. It's very, very powerful. It could be business cards, dog walking service with the paw, Chick-fil-A billboards, often or three-dimensional, or very different than everything else. Do you ever notice that Chick-fil-A basically doesn't show their food in their commercials? Did you ever notice that? They don't. But what do all the other fast food restaurants do? Here's our food, buy it. They show cows coming down. You think you think there's a reason for that? Oftentimes people want to show people exactly what they do instead of doing something completely different to get their attention. Works very, very well. If you want to be noticed, it takes at least 6 times to be noticed for the first time from someone. So that means when you send that one email to someone and they don't respond, it doesn't mean that they're ignoring you. It could mean they're ignoring you, actually, but it's probably not what it is. It's really just you haven't touched them enough. So drive by that billboard. Frequency, 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 frequency. I'm doing a test right now where I literally posted the same video on 3 different platforms around the same time this morning with a very similar message. It's about audiobooks. And basically I took a video that I recorded from a Marketers Anonymous talk that I did. And I basically took out a snippet of it. It's the very beginning of it. And I basically say, I hate when people who voice their audiobooks have a narrator do it instead of the author. What do you think? And I posted on LinkedIn, I posted on Twitter, and I posted on Facebook. Right now, the best engagement is on Facebook. All 3 of those platforms have basically the same amount of followers. Which one does best? And so I'm testing different things like that. But also, it's maybe people are cross on different things, and they see it on one of them, and then they'll engage. That's what I want them to do. So you have to do things more than once, over and over and over again. When it comes to marketing, money isn't the vehicle that engages a person's eyeballs. It's setting yourself apart from the pack. The wolf pack. The wolf pack. Because the wolf pack is from the movie Hangover. Hangover? I think that's the movie. Okay, so I say this, I think this is important too. So I don't follow other marketers. I follow brands that I like, that I would use as a consumer, and I like to dissect what they do and be like, oh, I wonder if there's a way that I could put my flair into that, right? I think that's very powerful, and I think that if you're trying to follow marketing companies and learning that way, it's very difficult. So a strategy that I like to use is literally hear the brands that I like, hear the things that I want to do in my life, and then I kind of look at how they're marketing. And so many of you guys know I'm a huge wrestling fan. I think Vince McMahon is one of the smartest businessmen in the world. He's very good at marketing and advertising. The way that he markets himself in his own products to get people to watch other things is absolutely amazing. And then something that I've come up really recently is called the Iron Man content strategy. It's basically what I learned about creating long-term evergreen content from running an Ironman race. There's a lot of that in the book anyway, but very specifically towards the Ironman race. It's really interesting. High level, it's this. You're going to search for one little nugget, like how do I train for an Ironman race? And then you think that answer is one 10-minute video, and it actually ends up being 365 days worth of videos. Because the deeper you get into people, the more they need to learn. Like, so you would say, what else could it be? It's training and food. So if someone was to ask me, like, what goes in, tell me, like, the biggest thing you've learned about training for an Ironman race. The answer is this. It's a science project. It's really a science project. And so learning so much about salt and yes, the physicality piece of it and nutrition and clothing and all those things. But how all of those from a scientific science project kind of way all go together. That's the Ironman content strategy. That a lot of it is in here, but I've coined recently because I've gone through it myself. And if I ever write a second Anomaly book, we'll talk more about that. Hint, hint. Ooh. I was kidding. I'm probably not writing a second book. Maybe I'm writing 3. Maybe it's a trilogy. Boom, boom, boom. And then something that I think I probably should have talked about more. Remember, I wrote this 18 months ago. You look back and you go, oh, I probably should have talked more about that. And it says, do you remember learning about compound interest in economics class back in high school or college? I believe your career is that big time. The earlier you start saving, the more money you save because interest compounds. Creating an audience follows the same rules, especially online, relationships, all of that stuff, right? So compound interest is such a huge thing in the business world. That's why you don't want to burn a bridge. That's why you want to create as many relationships with people. They're changing their careers every 40 months, as I was saying. There's a lot of people that you never would have expected to do business with, yet here they are. I mean, think about the first story from the introduction with the Rubin family. I mean, I never would have thought that someone that I worked with for 6 months in TV, his family would have been so instrumental in my career. But that's why compound interest is so important. Create great relationships with people. Don't be a donkey. Don't burn bridges. Be really polite to people. Be nice to people. You know, good things happen. Because when you need them later, if you were an asshole to them, guess what happens? They don't want to work with you. So compound interest, so big. You could probably write an entire book on just compound interest of business in your career. And then the other thing that's interesting is when I first wrote Anomaly, we didn't have this thing called roadmaps, which are basically, at the end, it's a quick little to-do list at the end of every chapter. It's very unique in a business book. It's very unique in a book, period. There's not a lot of books that have it. But it was something that I thought was important, and it was a quick wrap, like here's what you should do after what you just read. Even though the chapters are 3 to 7 pages long, it was something that I thought was going to be very impactful, and people like it. And so there's that. Along with that, there's also kind of like a quick little download lead magnet, which is like, hey, give me your email and your name, and I'll send you this spreadsheet of how to do this. It's called the Anomaly Method Roadmap. All you have to do is go to anomalymethod.com to get that, anomalymethod.com. You can get that. And then it's a bunch of spreadsheets and things on how to track people that are coming in. It's basically a document that is a Google form because people don't have to have crazy CRMs, content relationship management things. They just need a a database of all the information. And if you have all of that in one place, when you have answers, you go back and you copy and paste it, basically. And so whether it's finding a specific type of person, the type of content that you've produced, the type of people that you've reached out to, or like the awards that you have nominated yourself for, applied for, or like I'm trying to get on a lot of podcasts right now, or I'm trying to do a lot of speaking gigs. And so I just like fill out this form, and basically it's like, hey, like, here's where you've applied. Here's the dates. Here's what you've said. And a lot of it is copying and pasting the same thing. Bam, 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 bam. Because they're all asking the same questions. The roadmap in this chapter, maybe I'll do this for everyone. Number 1, download the Anomaly Method roadmap, which is called AMR. So when you hear me say it in the future, that's it. AnomalyMethod.com. And that'll take you to that thing. It's a quick little, like, give me your email, and then you get the spreadsheet, and then you can go through the book with it. And then number 2, decide on a goal or a conversion to track. Decide on a goal or a conversion to track. If you haven't done that yet, think about it, right? Like, what do you want to track? I think that's important to do. I think you should gamify things as much as possible because it's important. So, like, this race this weekend that I'm doing, it's the finish. There's no time goal on there because I've never done it before. The first time you ever do something for the first time, I think it's complete that task. So complete this task, right? Once I do that, if I decided to do another one, it's to complete that faster than the time before, or maybe less painful on the second time around or something like that. If it was, about this book, maybe it's writing a second book, and that second book, write it faster than the first time, or sell more copies, or more pages, or something like that. Goals are important. Make $1 million. If you made $1 million your first time, make $1,002,000. Whatever it is. So that's it. Chapter 1 of Anomaly, how to finally stand out from the crowd. Appreciate you guys listening. If you guys have questions throughout, let me know. That's Chapter 1. Chapter 2, quick plug and tease for Chapter 2, is the fundamentals no one taught you. Boom, boom, boom. Of course I had to look at that because I don't remember my book in memory, but I remember what it says because that's how I live. Boom shakalaka. Appreciate you guys listening. You guys have questions, hit me up. If not, see you on the Book of Face or wherever you're listening to this. Peace. 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 Laters with a Z, of course.